Now, as you know, we think that James Comey is a big old buffoon. We think he's a weasel. We think he's a liar. We think that he's a criminal. We think that he actually wielded his role as FBI director in such a way to create political terror in this country against innocent Americans who are only guilty of not agreeing with James Comey politically. We can all have disagreements about things like that. But one thing we should all be able to agree with, the dude is weird. Weird as after his little Jimmy sells seashells by the seashore stunt that got him a whole lot of attention for seemingly sending a cryptic threat to the president of the United States that he now claims ignorance for, he now immediately pivots and goes on a book tour. Of course he does. So he was in Washington, D.C. He was signing books at a bookstore. I think it was Politics and Prose, left-wing bookstore, of course. And his screaming throngs of old ladies were there to get an autograph. And so was Jesse Waters' producer. This is a beautiful troll. Take a look what happened when Jesse's producer showed up to get his book signed by Jimmy Comey.
We wanted answers from Comey, so we sent Johnny to investigate the investigator.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Director Comey,
Yeah.
how are you?
Good, thank you.
Jesse Waters from Fox has a question.
Yeah.
Why are you on an 86 Trump?
All right.
Director?
I'm not taking questions like that now.
Why would you
Just signing the book.
why would you post that? Director Comey, how was your interview with the Secret Service?
You want the book signed, really?
Absolutely.
Okay, you got it, bud.
Can you sign my seashell too? Which beach is this that you're going to? You find a Kamala seashell, 8647. This is a politically charged beach, Director.
Be well. Be well.
The seashell? You want to sign it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night. Thank you. Good night.
He didn't want to sign the seashell. That's sad. Come on, have a sense of humor, Jim. That was beautiful. Everything about this was beautiful in a really ugly way and awkward. Look at the moment when Jim Comey realizes who this guy is. And why do you want to 86 Trump? See, I want James Comey to feel awkward. I want him to feel uncomfortable. Because he did that to a lot of innocent people. But not with some camera and some sort of trolling, goofy questions from a producer. No, he used the rule of law to make people very, very uncomfortable. He terrified people. He trapped people. He destroyed people's lives. So the very least that I can take pleasure in is this buffoon having an awkward 60 seconds with Jesse Waters' producer. He's having a good day, isn't he? Jim, you had work done? I think he's had work done. I liked the move, by the way, when he reaches into the pocket. He's like, what's he reaching into his pocket for? Johnny, what you got in your pocket? Will you sign my seashell? Also, did you notice the dude acting as a bodyguard for James Comey? What's going on there? You would think the former director of the FBI could do better. But I guess maybe Trump sort of withdrew his Secret Service detail now. So he's got to hire Chad. Or is it Jordan? Caleb? Nah, needs to be more androgynous. Is that a dude? I mean, honestly, I don't want to get in trouble for misgendering somebody. There is facial hair, but, you know, these days, especially in James Comey's circle, what's going on with the ear? I'm hoping that that's just like an employee at the bookstore who was doing like crowd control. But still, yikes. By the way, about the book that Jimmy Comey is peddling, it's amazing. If you read the synopsis of this book, considering the circumstances that put James Comey back in the news cycle again, the seashells perfectly placed that say 8647. And my wife thought that I should post that on Instagram. So of course I did, because that's a real good lesson, dear boys and girls. If you see something out there and you have no idea what it means, go ahead and post it on social media and see what happens. There will be no negative repercussions. No, that's a fine use of social media. So he gets all this attention and he acts innocent. I had no idea what that message meant. And I had no idea. I was just taking a walk with my wife on the beach. But now when you read the synopsis of the book, maybe you have a better idea of exactly what Comey was up to. Former FBI Director Comey reunites the protagonists of his first two legal thrillers. Hold on. This guy is the former director of the FBI, and his post-FBI career is to write 3 crime thriller novels. I mean, listen, I just wrote a thriller too. I have a new book out. It's coming out next week. But I'm not the former director of the FBI. I mean, I would think that if he really had books in him, it wouldn't be some sort of criminal fantasy story. That's just weird, isn't it? Everything about this guy is weird. The fact that he was the director of the FBI is remarkable and disturbing. But sure, his strongest outing yet, his third crime thriller novel, U.S. Attorney Carmen Garcia is trying to take down Samuel Buchanan, a far-right media personality with a popular podcast vilifying those he thinks are destroying America. Oh, but he executed his job as director of the FBI in a completely non-political, non-partisan, unbiased way. Everybody was equal under the law. Justice is blind. But then when he gets the chance to write a book, the plot line has to do with a far-right media personality with a popular podcast who vilifies those he thinks are destroying America. That's shocking, isn't it? Just a random idea that he had. He doesn't know where it came from. And who does he think are destroying America? Intellectuals, immigrants, and people of color. So he's a Neanderthal-thinking, xenophobic racist. That's the bad guy, the enemy, in James Comey's fever dream novel. Are you connecting the dots here? All right, let's continue. Garcia believes Buchanan went far beyond the protection of the First Amendment when he singled out his enemies by name and suggested, quote, something should be done about them. Oh, you mean like they should be 86th, Jim? Is that what you mean? Is that what he said? Someone should 86 these people. Oh, no. That's not a threat. We have no idea what that means. You see what he did here? Do you see? His fans have obliged, killing or grievously injuring some of his foes. In a series of tense and exhilarating courtroom scenes, there's nothing more exhilarating than a courtroom scene written by the former director of the FBI. By my book. Garcia works with Deputy U.S. Attorney Nora Carlton to bring Buchanan down. Then, just as they've convicted him, a new threat emerges. Some of his followers have planned an act of terror at an upcoming UN convention. Okay, so we've got a racist, xenophobic, Neanderthal-thinking, blockhead, anti-intellectual, far-right-wing commentator podcaster who inspires his listeners to murder all of his political enemies. And now, just as he's getting convicted, they're terrorists and they're going to blow up the UN. But James Comey does not have any personal political bias against conservatives or Republicans. Hell, he's a Republican himself, don't you know? Just ask him. He's the media's favorite kind of Republican, the kind that votes Democrat. Comey's ripped from the headlines plot. Wait a second. What headlines have been ripped for this plot? What? This is a ripped from the headlines plot. Because haven't we seen headline after headline about crazed lunatic people who listen to right-wing podcasts go murdering people in cold blood and plotting to blow up the UN? Oh, no, wait. Those headlines are actually about people who watch MSNBC and murder Republican congressmen on a baseball diamond in Virginia, or take over downtown Portland dressed up like Antifa jerks. Those are the actual headlines, guys. So I don't know who's publishing this book or who wrote this blurb about how James Comey's left-wing fantasy about right-wing hate-mongering murderers and terrorists is ripped from the headlines, but there are literally zero headlines to support this fever dream of James Comey's. God, they're despicable people. Comey's ripped from the headlines plot, which, with its focus on Nora's hand-wringing about following legal and constitutional protocol, is easy to read as a bit of self-reflection, never loses steam. This proves that Comey, the crime novelist, is here to stay. Oh, thank God. I was concerned that Comey wasn't here to stay. I really don't like James Comey. I could do an entire podcast where I could have a daily storyline about everything that James Comey did that is what's wrong with America and what's wrong with how he and the permanent political class in Washington, D.C. used the government and the Justice Department as a weapon against everyday, ordinary Americans. I could do that, and I could keep going on and on. I'm going to stop because there's one more person who would like to have the last word about James Comey. And so I would like to defer to the gentleman from Louisiana. Senator Kennedy, please wrap this up. What do you think of James Comey?
One other topic of conversation today is, of course, that tweet from the former FBI director, James Comey, now deleted, showing the numbers 8647 in the sand. Do you think that was an appropriate thing for James Comey to put on social media?
No. Look, you can only be young once, but you can always be immature. I know Mr. Comey pretty well. He's been on a lot of Senate committees. He's very self-assured. As Lyndon Johnson used to say, he can strut sitting down. He's got a chip on his shoulder. In fact, the chip on his shoulder has a chip on its shoulder. He, as an FBI director, he interfered not just in one presidential campaign, he interfered in two. He tried to screw both Trump and Hillary Clinton. People have forgotten that what he tried to do to Secretary Clinton.
I covered that.
Did he? Yeah. I mean, he a good argument can be made he cost her the election. I don't have a lot of sympathy for him. I'm not saying that, I don't know what his intent was, but it was bone deep down to the marrow stupid, and I don't feel sorry for him.
Yeah. I think that probably wraps things up on this James Comey segment. Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much. And whatever you do, please, I beg you, don't buy James Comey's book, and recommend that action to all of your friends. Friends, don't let friends read Comey.